To understand the Mexican-American War, we have to rewind to the colonial era, when the American Southwest was the remote, underdeveloped frontier of New Spain. Spanish control was weak, missions and forts dotted the landscape, but indigenous resistance, harsh conditions, and neglect from Mexico City kept the region unstable. The Spanish focused on central Mexico's riches, leaving Alta California, Nuevo Mexico, and Texas isolated and vulnerable. The mission system tried to convert and control native peoples, but mostly brought disease, forced labor, and more resistance. After Mexico gained independence in 1821, the new nation inherited these problems: vast territory, little money, and constant threats from native groups. Mexico's solution? Invite foreign settlers to Texas, hoping they'd develop the land and defend against raids. Land agents like Stephen F. Austin brought in hundreds of American families who were supposed to become Mexican citizens, obey the laws, and convert to Catholicism. But the settlers kept their language, culture, and Protestant faith, and many brought in slave people, clashing with Mexico's anti-slavery laws. The Mexican government's rules were ignored, and the region became a powder keg. Instead of loyal citizens, Mexico got a growing American enclave with its own interests. Tensions simmered as the settlers resisted assimilation and Mexican authority weakened. The seeds of conflict were planted. Mexico's northern frontier was now a battleground of cultures, laws, and ambitions. And soon, those ambitions would explode. The American settlers in Texas weren't interested in following Mexican rules. They kept their language, their slaves, and their ties to the U.S. When Mexico tried to halt American immigration and enforce its laws, the Texians rebelled, claiming their rights were being trampled. The breaking point came when Santa Anna scrapped Mexico's constitution and seized power as a dictator. The Texas Revolution erupted, most famously at the Alamo, where Texian defenders were wiped out, but their sacrifice became a rallying cry. Sam Houston's forces soon captured Santa Anna and forced him to sign a treaty recognizing Texas independence. Mexico, however, refused to accept the loss, insisting Texas was still a rebellious province. For nearly a decade, Texas existed as the independent Lone Star Republic, caught between Mexico's refusal to let go and America's reluctance to annex a massive slaveholding territory. U.S. presidents hesitated, fearing war with Mexico and reigniting the slavery debate at home. Texas lobbied for annexation, but the issue was a political hot potato. The standoff dragged on, with Texas vulnerable and Mexico simmering with resentment. The fate of Texas and the future of the continent hung in the balance. The question wasn't if conflict would come, but when. The stage was set for a much larger confrontation, and the world was watching. While Texas waited, the idea of manifest destiny swept the United States. The belief that Americans were destined to rule the continent. This ideology mixed nationalism, racism, and a sense of divine mission, justifying expansion as spreading freedom, even as it meant taking land from others. Many Americans saw Mexicans as inferior and unfit to govern the West, making conquest seem not just inevitable, but righteous. The debate over Texas and new territories was also a battle over slavery. Southerners wanted more slave states, while Northerners saw expansion as a plot to spread slavery. The 1844 election became a referendum on these issues, and James K. Polk's victory signaled that the U.S. was ready to expand, no matter the cost. The nation was divided, but the drive for land and power was unstoppable. The fuse was lit. Polk's presidency made war almost inevitable. After Texas was annexed in 1845, Mexico broke off relations, furious at what it saw as theft of its territory. The immediate spark was a border dispute. Texas claimed the Rio Grande, Mexico insisted on the Nueces River, leaving a contested zone in between. Polk sent a diplomat to buy California and New Mexico, but Mexico refused to negotiate. Polk then ordered General Zachary Taylor to move U.S. troops into the disputed territory, provoking a standoff with Mexican forces. In April 1846, Mexican cavalry attacked an American patrol north of the Rio Grande. Polk seized the moment, declaring that American blood had been shed on American soil. Congress declared war. The conflict was on, but the real goal was clear. The United States wanted not just Texas, but all of northern Mexico. The war was sold as defense, but it was about conquest. The border clash was just the excuse. The U.S. was now committed to a war that would reshape the continent. The armies marched, and the fate of the West would be decided by force. The Mexican-American War had begun. The consequences would be enormous, and there was no turning back. The war unfolded on three fronts, and the U.S. military quickly gained the upper hand. General Taylor's forces won key battles in northern Mexico, making him a national hero. In the west, General Kearny captured New Mexico without a fight, while American settlers and naval forces seized California. By early 1847, both regions were under U.S. control. But Mexico refused to surrender, so Polk ordered General Winfield Scott to invade the heartland. Scott's army landed at Veracruz, marched inland, and after fierce battles, including the storming of Chapultepec Castle, captured Mexico City. The US flag flew over the National Palace. The war was won on the battlefield. The military triumph was total, but peace would prove far more complicated. The United States now held the keys to a vast new empire. The question was, what would they do with it? The answer would shape the future of two nations. With Mexico City occupied, the defeated government had no choice but to negotiate. American diplomat Nicholas Trist, defying orders to return home, signed the Treaty of Guadalupe Hidalgo in 1848. Mexico ceded over half its territory, including California, Nevada, Utah, Arizona, and parts of several other states, in exchange for $15 million and the US assuming some debts. The Rio Grande became the new border. The treaty promised rights to Mexicans in the new territories, but protections for land and property were quickly undermined, leading to decades of dispossession. In Mexico, the treaty was a national humiliation. In the US, it sparked fierce debate. Some thought it was too much, others not enough. The war was over, but the wounds would last for generations. The map of North America was forever changed. The Mexican-American War transformed both nations. For the US, it fulfilled manifest destiny, opened the West and set off the California Gold Rush, but it also reignited the slavery debate, pushing the country closer to civil war. For Mexico, the war was a disaster, political chaos, economic ruin, and a deep sense of loss and resentment toward the US. The memory of the Yankee invasion became central to Mexican identity and nationalism. For indigenous peoples, the change in sovereignty brought even greater dispossession and violence as American expansion accelerated. The war replaced one colonial power with another, more relentless one. The legacy of conquest, division, and resistance still echoes today. The border drawn in 1848 remains a line of conflict and connection. The story of the Mexican-American War is far from over.